thanks for joining us. For ABC 15 News at 4, I'm Faye Frederick. As crime-solving tools continue to develop, more law enforcement agencies are turning to what's called familial DNA testing when other leads run dry. It's giving victims of violent crime a chance for closure. ABC 15's Cameron Polam sat down with the DPS Crime Lab, one of just a dozen in the nation, leading the charge.
Familial DNA is still fairly new, but its impact is already being felt in our state, putting criminals who've evaded capture for years behind bars. It's a new frontier in the crime-fighting world, and Arizona is one of the few places it's happening.
I think when DNA first was in its infancy, you needed like a quarter size, and now it's less than a pin drop.
A pin drop of DNA to capture a potentially violent suspect. But when that DNA comes back from being processed without a match, that's when law enforcement agencies turn to Don Gingras with the DPS Crime Lab.
Relatives typically have similar profiles.
When Gingras is handed a DNA sample, she processes it against DNA samples taken from felons all over the state. The hope is to find a potential relative's DNA that may help reveal who the suspect from the unsolved crime may be.
Obviously, the next step is to go look at all the first order relatives and say, okay, what are we looking for here?
What they're looking for is if one of those relatives has any connection to the unsolved crime. Were they in the vicinity of the crime when it happened? Do they have a record? Do they know the victim? If things begin to add up, they'll try and get a DNA sample from that suspect. For years, police came up empty-handed in the search for who allegedly sexually assaulted and murdered 31-year-old Allison Feldman of Scottsdale. DNA from the crime scene was matched using familial testing in 2018 to the brother of Ian Mitchum, eventually leading to Mitchum's arrest. Then, in November, 34-year-old Xavier Williams was taken down for a 2014 deadly Tempe home invasion after familial evidence led police to him. And just last week, after nearly 2 decades, 58-year-old David Slade was arrested for sexual assaults in Arizona and Utah. For those pouring everything into this program, finding a match is thrilling.
I'm texting my boss right away. We got one.
And based on its success so far, they'll certainly be getting a lot more. I'm Cameron Polam, ABC 15 Arizona.